How to run an e-commerce business with incredible efficiency. I want to warn you right up front, this is a long video. It is not just a blog post and a video that's superficial in nature. I'm giving you a complete resource here, really the entire blueprint for how to run and grow and manage an e-commerce business. Everything you need to know how to do in terms of the accounting, everything from setting up your master SKU list and a recommended product and template for how to do it, to syncing your sales data from your sales channels into your accounting software, which I'll explain later on in the video, as well as I've already explained in the write-up, why I choose QuickBooks Online over the others. I've also written up my opinions on this before. These are my opinions, not those of Fundira. The accounting setup, how to get the accounting set up in such a way that it makes it extra efficient to get everything reconciled. At the end of the day, you want to make sure that everything is accurate and that everything is complete. By accurate, nothing is off, the amounts aren't wrong, the amounts are correct, and complete, nothing's missing, right? We want to make sure that there aren't sales missing. I've seen so many cases where I've looked after a former bookkeeper's work where things just get pushed through, especially with e-commerce, because it can get so complicated. So the key to using this blueprint that I've given you is using it in its totality. And if you do that, I can pretty much guarantee you that you will not miss a sale, you will not miss a processing fee, so that at the end of the day, when you run your balance sheet, when you run your profit and loss, it will be 100% accurate. And now you can make valuable decisions based on that information, where maybe you weren't able to do that before, or maybe you certainly didn't feel like you were able to do that before. So the accounting setup, the clearing accounts to make it efficient to get this stuff reconciled, and then of course how to reconcile the clearing accounts. So I walk you through some examples of Amazon and Authorized.net, and I give you some examples of templates that I've created to help aid in the process that make it much more efficient. So again, bear with this. If you don't have half an hour to spend, bookmark this, hold off, come back when you do, because I think it's really important. And this isn't the sort of thing I expect you'll absorb completely in one sitting. It's the sort of thing I expect you to bookmark, go back to, try something that I've shown you, and then come back and absorb some more. Think of it as a course, because that's really what this is. This is a course in how to run your e-commerce business with incredible efficiency. If you're ready to now, come along. Let me show you what all of this looks like. Smartsheet is the tool that I'm proposing to use to manage your master SKU list or master product list. And as you're going to see in a minute, it's how you can aggregate all of your products across every sales channel and map them to the one master SKU that has to exist as a singular SKU for each product, which is how it has to be set up in QuickBooks Online or whichever accounting software you might choose to use. So this is what it looks like, what you're seeing on your screen here. And as you'll see, I've got a column for the sales channel SKU, and notice here I've given you an example. Obviously these are samples where I have the same product. One is on Amazon, one is on eBay, and on each of Amazon and eBay it has a different SKU number, but I've got the same SKU number mapped here in QuickBooks Online for each of them. We have a column here that tests the length because the length cannot exceed 100 characters in QuickBooks Online. So as we're using this to create new SKUs, we want to make sure that we don't exceed that, or it's going to be difficult to get it set up. It's going to get cut off. And then of course you can put in the other information here, item cost per unit, item price per unit, because that's the kind of stuff you want in QuickBooks Online. I've created a column here where I can indicate if there's a problem, because let's say the length is over 100 and I'm the accountant, I'm using this with my client. I can check this off and say to my client, hey, I need you to go fix the product name. In some cases, they might leave it to me to do that, but you want to make sure you're on the same page about these things between business owner and accountant. And then once I've added it to QuickBooks Online, and assuming the problem's been resolved, notice I've got conditional formatting rules in place that kind of light up the line different ways, so I know very quickly and very visually where it's at. The only thing you need to see here, perhaps under the hood, two quick things actually. The sales channel is configured as a drop-down type column, right? And of course, you just list your sales channels here, and that way when somebody's adding it to the list, they can just choose from the drop-down. Very easy to set up. And then the way that I set up these rules for the conditional formatting is over here. And the order matters. So in other words, this takes precedence. So if I have problem checked off, and as you saw, I also had QBO checked off, this supersedes that. So it retains this formatting. So the order that you put these rules in is very important when you're setting up your conditional formatting. Last and definitely not least, we set up alerts and actions. So as the accountant who works with my clients, when they add a new item, I get an alert right away that lets me know they've added an item. Timeliness is important. It could be, and of course often is the case, that my client is trying to get a purchase order done so they can order a new product, and they can't create the purchase order in QuickBooks Online until I've set up the item for them. So I have this configured to let me know right away when a new item is added, and I kind of make it my business, obviously, unless I'm in a meeting or somewhere where I can't, sort of stop. I make it my business to get in here and, very quickly go in and set up the product for them based on this information. This makes it very easy for me as the accountant to manage the technical QuickBooks Online parts, while the client or the business owner can manage their e-commerce business. So Smartsheet is great because it's in the cloud. We can both be in here at the same time. There's no emailing files back and forth. It's the perfect place to kind of manage this. And you'll see further on in this video where we come back to this and use it for a powerful lookup scenario in order to get our Amazon settlement reports done really quickly. WebGility's Unify is the tool that I'm recommending using to sync your data. WebGility can grab your sales from pretty much any sales channel that I've seen anybody ever use and get it pushed into your QuickBooks Online or any accounting software. And the beauty of this, as I mentioned in the write-up, is that you can do it with everything in its proper place. You have multiple line items on a single sale, that's accounted for properly. The fees that get deducted based on your payment processor, whether it's PayPal, Stripe, or Authorized.net, all shows up right there on the sales receipt, so it reconciles beautifully. And you're looking at my screen here, and what you can see is I'm in the connections part. So you can see I've got my QuickBooks Online company connected. I've got my two sales channels here, nerdenterprises.com and School of Answers. I've got my payment methods, PayPal and Stripe. And if I actually shipped products, I don't. I sell digital products, but if they were shipping, as you can see, you can add those kinds of connections here. So that's the connections. Really, really easy to set up and add connections where and when you need to. Next, I want to show you the settings. When I go into the settings area, I want to go straight into the accounting settings because this is kind of the critical area. The rest of it's pretty straightforward. You're going to map up your items with your item list and so on and so forth. And this is what I want to show you that I discovered as I was creating this very content, because I reached out to support from WebGility using this little chat guy right here, which, by the way, their support is amazing. And right here is what I needed. Before they changed the layout a little bit, there used to be a way that was very easy to see where you could, by payment method, indicate where that deposit should go when a sale is made. And it looked like they had taken it away. They hadn't. They just changed the layout. And it's right here. When you go into your accounting settings, you'll see here, use the same type of transaction for all sales. That's the default. As soon as you change this to different transaction types, you're going to see now that you have tabs across here. So I can go ahead and say, if it's a Stripe payment, I want you to deposit to my Stripe clearing account, right? If it's PayPal, which we're going to see also here, PayPal, I want you to deposit to my PayPal clearing account, right? And then we're going to save that. And then, of course, it's recommended that you test this out and make sure that it's working properly once you do. And here's a quick example of what the sales receipt looks like, right, when it comes in. Like I said, he signed up for my growth plan, right, and on the second line, it shows you the fees that were deducted. So the plan is $1,500. The fees that were taken out were $43.80. So it syncs beautifully. This initially went into undeposited funds because this was before I learned that there was the setting. Now it's going to come in configured based on the fact that his payment method is Stripe. It's going to go right into my Stripe clearing account. And that is beautiful because now the reconciliation process, which we're going to cover a little bit more down below, is going to be that much faster for me. When you're setting up your chart of accounts in QuickBooks Online or whatever accounting software you use, you're going to want to set it up like this, especially given what I just showed you about how WebGility can be configured to push your payments through any clearing account that you like. You'll want to set up an account called Merchant Accounts and a sub-account within that for PayPal, Stripe, or you do it by sales channel like your website. But the payment method really is what needs to be reconciled. Those sales that came in that were paid for through this payment method and the amounts that ultimately went from this payment method out through to your bank account. And you'll want to create it in its own group, just like you'll want your operating accounts in their own group, because as you'll see when you look at your balance sheet, it makes the balance sheet much easier to read, so you can see how much you truly have in the bank and how much might be in transit at any given time inside of your merchant accounts. So definitely important to use this kind of structure in setting up your chart of accounts. Now, how to reconcile the clearing accounts. First, we're going to address Amazon because, as I mentioned in the write-up, Amazon is a challenge. Even though WebGility can be configured to push Amazon sales in, I don't do it. And the reason, and I mentioned this in the write-up, is that Amazon doesn't distinguish between a product or a sale that's shipped versus one that hasn't. But Amazon only funds you for the things that have actually shipped. So you could wind up with sales of items that didn't ship that end up getting pushed in from WebGility, and that creates a nightmare in terms of reconciling. So instead, I've created a system, I've just developed my own system for how to quickly get those bi-weekly Amazon settlement reports into a format that makes it super fast to get these sales for the 2-week period entered into QuickBooks Online. It's going to be a partial hybrid. Part of it we're going to be importing, the rest of it we're going to be entering, because you import the major sales part of it, and then there's a few line items that need to be added manually. Not going to go through the whole process here. I just want to give you an idea of what this looks like. So looking at my screen, here's a template that I've created. I custom built it around the Amazon settlement report that you get. So I open up my template here, and the first thing I need to do is open up the file you download from Amazon is this generic kind of text file. So I'm going to say open. I'll go in, and this is what it looks like. Down here, I've got it selected to open up text files. It's looking for that. So we open this up, and it's going to come in, and this might look overwhelming. If you're not a technical person, don't worry. Just stick with the default choice here that says delimited. You go next, and it's going to come in perfectly. So I click finish, and then I'm going to just take this whole thing, this whole report, and I'm going to move over to my template into the settlement report tab. Control V to paste, and I paste it in with the headers because that's how you ensure that everything lined up properly. It pretty much will, or always should. Once you've copied this in, and I always just quickly go and confirm just to make sure I didn't get the wrong report or wrong layout, that it didn't overwrite the section here that's shaded in yellow so that everything can be looked up. Now the next thing is, you'll notice it's not looking up the QuickBooks item yet because I have to update my master product list. Now this is going to come straight out of Smartsheet, right, which we went over earlier. So if I go here to Smartsheet, normally what I recommend you do, especially, and I'm just doing this quickly for demonstration purposes, but if you have all this stuff filled out, the easiest thing to do is really to click up here, and you can, where is it, export to Excel. The other thing you can do, though, because the beauty of this is that it is a spreadsheet, and in the interest of time right now I'm going to do this, is you can copy and paste everything that's in here, right, and then come over to the template and the product list. It's configured to conform exactly, right? So we're going to just paste this stuff in, right? Ignore the length and all that stuff, and that should get me what I need so that now everything's getting looked up, and you can see right away they're coming in product 1, 2, and 3, and so on. Okay, the other thing you'll need to know about with this template is I have this Amazon categories tab. Amazon has a lot of different little fees and other ways that money sort of moves around that they charge and credit you back for things. So here I've got a little table, a master table, that you can tweak however you want. For me, certain things like different kinds of shipping charges, I don't care. For QuickBooks purposes, I just want to call them shipping. So I created this mapping to help with that part of the process. Now that we've got everything in, I go over here to the settlement summary, and I've created this pivot table so that all you have to do is make sure you've got something, some place in the pivot table selected. You'll see pivot table tools, analyze, refresh, and boom, I've got an instant summary of everything that's sold, right? And now if I collapse this real quick, actually I'm going to go here and say collapse the entire field. And then I'm just going to expand the sales. But before I do, you'll see here are those other categories. So these categories are going to get entered manually. We're going to create a sales receipt in QuickBooks Online. And then this is just, 10 or so lines that real quick. I've set up the corresponding items in QuickBooks Online already. So we're just going to quickly go down the list, enter them in. Red numbers are negatives. For the sales part, I can now take this whole entire list. Here's the sales channel SKU. Here's the QuickBooks item that got looked up because of everything I've created. And I'm going to, just to the bottom of this list, we want to select everything except the totals, of course. Control C to copy. And then my last tab here is the sales receipt import worksheet. I come over here to SKU, paste the values. And this is basically an import ready file. Over here I'm just testing the lengths of the items again to be absolutely certain that I'm not going to have a problem with a product description being too long. And that's basically it. I'm not going to get into the import part. Like I said, not enough time. Another video on another day. But this is basically configured now so that I make a copy in its own sheet, in its own book, and then I save it out as a separate file. And then using an import tool, I use something called Transaction Pro Importer, I can have this file imported in about 5 minutes. So as you saw, the whole process, even when I'm demonstrating it for you, was under 5 minutes and less than another 5 minutes to get this part imported. And then, like I said, you go back to your settlement summary and you key in these additional line items here. So this is how we get Amazon sales into QuickBooks Online. And then as far as reconciling the Amazon clearing account, it's really easy. It reconciles itself because these sales push the money into that Amazon clearing account. And the sweeps, where Amazon actually funds your account, this amount here, this grand total, will match exactly what went into the bank account. And that amount gets recorded as a transfer from the clearing account to the bank account. So recording the sales receipt in QuickBooks Online will have the effect of putting this net amount into the sales clearing for Amazon, and the transfer from that goes into the bank account, again being recorded as a transfer from clearing to the bank, will zero this out. So you'll see very easily how this amount, the $76,000, comes in and goes right back out. So it reconciles itself. That's the moral of the story. Now, anything else you're going to reconcile, PayPal, Stripe. PayPal, you have a monthly statement that you're going to be able to get online, and you reconcile it just as you would a bank account. Because with PayPal, remember, you have amounts going in and out. I can pay for things with PayPal at the same time as I'm getting paid for things with PayPal. So that you have to treat it just like a bank account. And important, I mentioned this in the write-up, I'll mention it again here, PayPal is not a bank account legally, so your money is not insured in PayPal. I always make sure I tell my clients this. Do not leave too much money in PayPal. It's not insured. So sweep out everything you can. I leave behind, maybe $100 to a few $100 to cover the things. I have some things that are set up on auto pay through PayPal, some apps and things that I pay for. So that's the only reason to leave a little bit of money in PayPal. Sweep everything else out. Then we have Authorize.net. Now, Authorize.net, again, the sales part is done. It's going to get pushed in by WebGility, but I want to show you what it looks like. It's actually a somewhat similar process to this when we want to reconcile the Authorize.net activity and make sure that that clearing account also zeroes out. So for Authorize.net, we have a similar process, very similar to what we did with Amazon, but a very different purpose in mind. With Amazon, we actually needed to get the sales into QuickBooks Online. Here, the sales are already there. What we're trying to do here is reconcile the amounts that came into the bank account with the orders that make up those totals in Authorize.net, and it's not always 100% clear. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go into our Authorize.net account, and it's going to be tempting to want to go into the reports, but don't. The place you want to go to get the report that we actually need is in the transaction search. And what I would do here is I would start from, and let's say I want to go from January. Let's say I want to do the report for January. So I go here into this account, and I find the first day in January that's got something, January 2nd, and then the to date would be, of course, the last day in January, right? So we run this report, and nothing else, no other criteria. I want absolutely everything. I choose search, and then I'm going to choose download to file, And the format that I want is going to be this one, expanded fields, comma separated. Okay, I'm going to skip this over in the interest of time. I've already downloaded the file that we need, but that's all it takes. So I usually do this a month at a time, right? Now we have that. Again, we're going to get a text file just like we did with Amazon stuff. So we're going to go open a text file. And there it is. Chose the wrong one. There we go. So the authorized.net download is here. Very similar process. We're going to choose delimited, comma, then finish. And again, we're just going to copy the whole thing into this book. We're going to paste values here. The reason I have this column highlighted is initially the paste comes in with the date and time combined into a singular column. What I want to do is I want to insert, so I highlight everything that's in the yellow shaded region. Control-Shift+, gives me the insert dialog here. I choose to shift cells right, OK. And don't worry about messing up the formatting here, because this is really, at the end, it's back-end stuff. Now I go data, text to columns, fixed, next, get rid of these extra two guys, and now I don't have to worry about overwriting any data. So now I end up with my settlement date in one column and my settlement time in the other. This is critically important because, as you're going to see in a second, this all needs to ultimately get organized by date, and that's exactly what is going to happen. So if the formatting here really drives you crazy, you can paste the formatting back over so that the time is the field that has the formats done like that. The authorization amount, pick another amount like column and paste that formatting over, and now everything looks kind of normal. But like I said, not really that important, because once you've got this in here and we've got the date by itself, then we go to summary, and just like we did with Amazon, we're going to click somewhere on the pivot table, go to analyze, go to refresh, and now I've got a summary by each day of what's settled. So these amounts you're going to see exactly in your bank account. There may be exceptions, and I want to point something out here. Over here, this is, again, I already set all this up. So all you have to do is paste the data in, a little bit of tweaking that I showed you, and refresh, and it's done. Over here, just note that I have got selected items here. We're only showing what's settled successfully and what's credited, right? I don't want errors, and I don't want decline, because decline transactions won't have funded into the bank account. So these should match. The only case I've seen so far where it doesn't match is in certain cases when there's a chargeback. They don't list anything in the download that indicates there was a chargeback. The amount just won't match, and then you call authorized.net, and their customer service is pretty good, and they'll confirm and explain exactly what was charged back. So once in a while, you may have to go a little deeper on this. But the other thing that's really cool about this is if you want to see what orders make up this total, because this is how you're going to reconcile, because now we're going to be in QuickBooks Online. We're going to be reconciling our authorized.net clearing account, and I'm going to see all these orders come in, and I want to check them off against the amount that swept out of that clearing account and into QuickBooks Online. So the pivot tables in Excel, this is one of the few things that works in Excel that doesn't work as well in Google Sheets, by the way. So you need to keep this in Excel. If I double click this amount, it gives me the detail. So now I can see every single order that exactly added up to that total that went into my bank account. So if I'm missing an order, or the order is the wrong amount for some reason, very easy to research this stuff and tie it out. And the bottom line, and this is a perfect example of what I was talking about, this is the proof of what I was talking about at the beginning of the write-up that I did for you here, where I said this process, if you follow it in its totality, will absolutely ensure not just efficiency, but it'll ensure completeness and accuracy. This is a perfect example. I cannot miss a sale doing it this way, because ultimately I can get this kind of detail where it specifically shows me here are the 5 or so orders, 6 orders that make up the exact total that goes into my bank account through my authorized.net account. So that, my friends, is how you reconcile authorized.net, because now I'll see these individual sales in my clearing account in QuickBooks. I'll see this amount as a transfer from clearing to the bank account, and in my reconciliation screen, I just check them off, and it will zero out perfectly, right? Because I check the individual ones, I check off this total going the other way. Boom, done. Everything's reconciled. That, my friends, is how we reconcile our merchant clearing accounts and why it's necessary to do to make sure that you haven't missed a single sale or a single fee or anything at all. Completeness and accuracy are the critical components to this. I want to be able to have completeness and accuracy 100%. And at the same time, do this with incredible efficiency. And I think you'll agree that once you get the hang of going through some of these processes that I've developed, you'll see that it does get very efficient. And as time goes on, it's faster and faster. I mean, I can have a whole month's worth of data reconciled for a client, usually inside of about an hour. That's not bad. And I'm talking about clients with multiple sales channels. So that, my friends, is how you reconcile your merchant clearing accounts and why it's important to do it. Shopping carts. Now, if you're selling on Amazon, you don't have to worry about a shopping cart or, anything really. You just sell on Amazon. If you're selling on eBay, same thing. And with eBay, your only payment method is going to be PayPal. I'm not experienced selling on eBay, but I don't think they allow for other payment methods because eBay owns PayPal. So, the whole heart pumps blood to itself first kind of thing. So there's not a lot to worry about in terms of shopping carts until or unless you're selling on your own website, which of course you should, right? Hopefully you get some sales from some people on Amazon, and you can, I don't know how it works exactly, but if you can include information about your company in the order confirmations, maybe with a link over to your website, little by little you can start getting traffic from Amazon over to your website. I'm sure Amazon wouldn't love to hear me say that, but as a business owner and merchant, I would think that might be the ultimate goal in some cases. Also, fair warning, because I've seen this firsthand, make sure that you don't put all your eggs in the Amazon basket, because I watched a client go from producing online sales of $40,000 a week to zero overnight. If Amazon doesn't like something you're doing, right or wrong, they'll shut you down. They have the power to do that because you're selling on their platform. So please, please, please make sure you do not put all your eggs in that basket, right? Because you may, unbeknownst to you, be selling a fake product or a bogus product or an imitation kind of product. And that's one example of how this kind of thing can happen. You buy it from your supplier. You trust your supplier that the products are legit. They aren't. You don't know this. You're selling it on Amazon. Next thing you know, somebody complains, what have you, and they don't really give you a chance to make it right. They just say, yep, nope, curtains, we're done. And that's Amazon's way of protecting its buyer, and I understand that. But from the merchant standpoint, really important not to put your eggs in that basket because it could happen to you, even though you might have the most incredible amount of integrity, such as my client did, right? And then it's kind of your word against theirs and a whole process to try and get your account reinstated if you ever even can, right? So just be aware of that. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you're so reliant on one source for your revenue, especially when that source has the power to shut you down like that. End of rant. Now, let's talk shopping carts. My favorite, because it's what I use for my own website, is WooCommerce. You can see I'm on my WordPress website, and if I go in here into the dashboard, I just want you to see how incredibly easy it is to set up products. And I use the whole range for WooCommerce because I have subscription-based stuff and all kinds of stuff. So if I go into my WooCommerce menu, you'll see I can look at my orders. The 21 means I have 21 orders that I haven't reviewed yet, but it's all instant anyway. I have some Zapier integrations. I can create coupon codes. Here's my subscriptions and memberships. I can export my orders, which makes it nice, especially if I ever can't reconcile something for any reason. And over here is your product. So if I go to add a new product, here's how simple it is and why I love this. So, of course, we're going to name the product, right? We're going to give the product a description. We're going to categorize the product, right? We're going to assign it to a category. That becomes important because that's how you organize your shopping cart, especially if you have a lot of different kinds of products, right? And then down here is where you're going to choose the sort of variables regarding your product. So I can do a simple product, a grouped product, right? An affiliate type product, a variable product, simple subscription and variable subscription. Is it virtual? Is it downloadable, right? So you can upload files. So I sell a lot of templates on my website, right? So you can upload files to your website and you simply add the file, you include the link. If it's a very large file like a video file, then you're probably going to want to use some other sort of file management service, like I use ShareFile to deliver my video file. So I wind up putting the ShareFile URL in here instead of one that's sort of local to my website. It just works much better. And a lot of times it'll just crash. The download won't work trying to stream a large video file off your own website. So better to do it there. If it's inventory, even if it's not inventory, I want a SKU on everything because that goes back to our master product list. So everything I create has to have a SKU so I can have what's in here in my website speak to my master product list so that can speak to what's in QBO. And I didn't get into this, but WebGility also, I have a setting configured where it says map it SKU on SKU. So in my case, I make sure I have the same SKU here as I do in QuickBooks Online. I have no restrictions here. My SKU can be anything I want it to be. The reason for the mapping is when you have sales channels like Amazon or eBay or others where they might have some rules they enforce on you in terms of how you have to organize the SKU, or as I say, actually I didn't say this, but I meant to. You could have multiple versions of the same product on the same sales channel for SEO reasons. I did mention this in the write-up, so that you have different descriptions for the same product to have it come up more likely based on different kinds of searches people might do in which they're ultimately looking for or interested in that same product. So that would be a case where you'd have different versions of the same SKU that ultimately need to be mapped to a single SKU in QuickBooks Online. So as you can see, really, really straightforward, really easy to set this up. And over here I can do a purchase note. This is going to come up on screen and go into the order confirmation. So if there's instructions, information you think they need when they order it, that goes here. And here you can assign the menu order so that you can help WooCommerce decide when somebody's on the front end of your website, what order the products show up in. And of course, enabling reviews, I certainly recommend that. You'd want people to be able to review your products. Hopefully they'll be good reviews. Hopefully you have good products. Right here you can do a product gallery. So if you have a physical product and you want to show it like you see on Amazon, where you can move your mouse over and see it from all angles, then you'll add product gallery images. So you'll add multiple images from all sides of the product. Really easy to do. And the featured image, of course, would be the image that gets shown initially when you first get to the product in the shopping cart. So WooCommerce, really, really great solution in my opinion. In the write-up, I've also mentioned Magento and BigCommerce. There are many others, and I'm sure a lot of them are really good. WooCommerce is what I use because I use WordPress for my site, and it just works really well. And Magento and BigCommerce are shopping carts that other clients of mine use that I know integrate nicely with WebGility, so that's why I'm kind of listing those here as well. So that, my friends, is pretty much everything I think that I can share with you for now on how to run an e-commerce business with incredible efficiency. Quick recap. Efficiency is worthless without accuracy and completeness. Accounting software, I use QuickBooks Online, lots of other products out there. I've told you why QuickBooks Online is my favorite. Really boils down to the reporting at the end of the day. Need the master SKU list. Smartsheet is where I recommend you do it. That's the recommended product. The sync tool to get sales from your sales channel into your accounting software. WebGility, of course. Proper accounting setup in your chart of accounts. A separate clearing account by payment method, so it's really easy to reconcile the payments that come in from the sales against what actually went into your bank account. How to reconcile your clearing accounts, went over that, gave you some very specific and detailed information on that. And finally, the shopping cart you've just seen. So that, my friends, is everything I think I can share with you on how to run an e-commerce business with incredible efficiency. As always, I hope you'll post your comments, questions below. I would love to get them. Would love to get back to you with answers to them. I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you on the web.